Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ginger Broderick, and I'm the host of the Ginger New York TV show. Welcome to our Ginger Fridays at M&N TV studios. We're live here every Friday afternoon at our West 59th Street location here in New York City. I have my favorite couple that's in today to talk about their new John Lennon tribute jazz album. So it's really, really great fun for me to have my sister and brother-in-law, Angela De Niro.
So good to see you.
Welcome. Mr. Ron, how are you?
Great to see you.
Welcome back. You're my favorite couple in the whole world.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you are.
And you're our favorite host.
Oh, well, thank you. And adopted sister now.
Okay.
We agreed to that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm on board with that one.
Ron, it's so fun to have you here. You were here about 1.5 years ago, and you brought in your jazz band, and you had rearranged some of John Lennon's tunes.
That's right.
And tell us what's happened since that time.
Okay, well, since that time, that was the beginning of the Lennon album concept and idea. I brought in 2 songs that I arranged for your show because I knew you were a Beatles fan, and when we finished playing those 2 songs, and before my interview, I came over and sat down, and you were kind of like welling up with tears.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, you know, of course, I've been wanting to do this tribute for 40 years now, so and it took me a little while. But I think what happened was, seeing how it affected you, I think it kind of really affected me. And I'm thinking, probably a good time to do the Lennon thing. Let's not put it off anymore. You know, if it affects people that way, maybe I should go ahead and get started. You know.
Yeah, because you're more of a big band jazz style musician, sax man.
Well, yeah.
Sax player and composer, arranger, right? And so you really taken that music and.
Yeah, I took the music. I used a little bit of Lennon's idea with he had a small horn section. He used 5 horns. I used 4, but I added an entire string section and some percussion, and I brought it kind of to a different place. But I think did justice to his songs. You
actually recorded with John Lennon too, I understand.
I did. I worked with John in 1974. We did an album called Walls and Bridges, and. You know, and on that project, he used the 5 horns. And one of the trumpet players was a guy named Steve Madeo, a good friend of mine, who was on this album. And we'll hear him a little bit later. You know.
What's it like to know somebody that many years? And he was the one that was instrumental in bringing you in for that album, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Steve was a very close friend of mine. We both lived on Long Island at the time, and we played a lot together in various bands. In fact, he played in my big band way back when, you know, in the 70s. And so we were good friends, and we would chat on the phone all the time. And he'd come off a tour with Stevie Wonder. He hooked up with Stevie Wonder and the Rolling Stones, and he got into that whole rock scene. And he was originally a jazz trumpet player, but adapted really well to the rock scene, and they loved him, and he loved it. So,
and you're talking about major names, world famous names.
So Steve calls me up one night, and we're chatting, small talk. And how you doing? How's everything going? Yeah, blah, blah, what's up? What you doing? And, you know, that kind of stuff. And in the middle of the conversation, very casually, he says, what are you doing tomorrow night? I said, let me think, nothing really. What's happening? He says, well, I got a session. And he was so casual, I'm thinking it's probably a demo date or something small. So we continued talking. We didn't even pursue that. And we went to our small talk, and before we hung up the phone, I said, Steve, who's the session with? He says, with John Lennon. And if you know Steve, he gets off on dropping bombs, you know.
That's a bomb. John Lennon.
He's a great guy, though, and a wonderful player, too. So.
And
how long have the 2 of you been married now?
30 years?
30
It'll
years.
be 30 years in August
Isn't that
18th.
Something?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're a jazz singer.
Yes.
And you contributed to this album as well.
I am on the last track, sure. He could not get away with doing this album without including me. I wasn't going to have any of that.
And
so.
your son, Matt, is involved.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Actually, that's the joy for me. And he's just all over the place, solos, leading the string section and everything. And it's really neat. It's
a family affair.
Yeah.
And I think it's really wonderful for a husband and wife and family to be involved with the project, because it's a big project.
No,
you know?
no bigger thrill for me than to work with my wife and my son.
Yeah.
You know.
Now we're going to start crying, okay?
No,
That'll make me well up.
No, we're not going to cry. We did this last time.
All right, Dan.
Ginger cried. I didn't cry yet. It's okay.
And we're hearing your music in the background, just for everyone to know that the music that you're hearing is from your new CD.
Yes.
But I just want to say this. Angela was not scheduled to be on this project. When we were in the tune selection stages, Angela says, what about that song, Goodbye? I said, it's a beautiful, Good Night. I said, it's a beautiful song, because we have a Manhattan Transfer album, a Christmas album, where they sing Good Night. And I said, did Lennon write that song? She says, yes.
It was a Lennon McCartney composition, and I was stunned by that.
I mean, I loved the tune. I had no idea Lennon and McCartney wrote that. And when Angela informed me of that, I said, that's it. That's the closer, and you're going to sing it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And we had a wonderful guitarist, jazz guitarist, Don Manassi, a dear friend of ours, who was at our wedding, actually.
Wow.
And he came in and put the guitar part, a very gentle, beautiful part down along with Ron, and it was just, it makes me very happy.
It was an afterthought, actually, and it worked out really well.
And so it's about 1.5 years. Now, you had to go through the whole John Lennon catalog, right?
Oh, yes.
Now, how do you select something like that? I mean,
That was tough.
Months of work. I have volumes of everything they've ever written, and
volumes of everything. you've
and I
written.
just went through tune by tune, and I played them on my flute, on my saxophone, and you know, it was a tough decision. I mean, there was so many beautiful songs. You know?
And the process was interesting too, because you know, of course, it's a jazz album, and it's not, you know, you're not just doing cover songs in that sense. You don't really want it to sound exactly like that. You try to stay close to the melody so that people recognize the song. But then all of a sudden, he'll just take it, whether it be a different tempo, a different feel, and then of course you add the solos and the strings, and it's a work of art. You know, I know it's hard for me to be objective because it's my husband, but I remember taking the CD into the car one day, and I was driving, and after about a half hour, I realized I love this album, and it has. I forgot it was his album. It was just really neat.
And it's universal music that we all love and grew up with, and no one's ever done anything like this either.
That's
you
true.
know?
And I tried to, you know, I tried to be true to their melodies, but I also tried to be creative and put my touch into it, you know. And when you do things like this, you know, I'm aware of this. You run the risk of pleasing nobody. You know, the jazz people say, no, it's too commercial, you know, and the rock people say it's too jazzy, you know. So I was playing a fine line there, and so far from the feedback that I've been getting,
5 stars
yeah.
on All About Jazz.
Wasn't that
right?
great? That was
Yeah.
really
You got 2
wonderful.
articles with them, and what I understand, it was the initial interview last year, talking about the process of it. It was the most read and the most recommended article
That's
for
right.
allaboutjazz.com.
Yeah, I was so impressed with that, because I mean, my idol is Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones had an interview that year, and we actually got more views than Quincy Jones, and I don't give me credit for that. It's John Lennon's name. I'm sure that had everything to do with that. But yeah, we came in #1 on that site.
I had a Quincy
was cool.
Jones mentor here on the show. She's about 88 years old now, Sarah McLawler. She's recognized as an American jazz artist through the White House. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that something? Yeah. You just never know who's going to pass through here.
No. Love this.
And I enjoy having you back time and time again.
It's always fun.
Thanks for calling up, and
You're my sister.
that's right.
That's right.
You VIP treatment. So with the tune selection was just kind of random.
Well, I don't know if you say random.
Did you hear a tune and then just say, no, that's what I want, just like, or did you have to think about it for a while?
Well, there was a lot of thought, but some tunes I knew I wanted to do, like the 2 that I did on your show. I knew.
Do you know that was going to be my next question? You know.
I knew I was going to do Imagine, and I knew I was going to do Happy Christmas, Happy Xmas. But I was open for everything else. I had a feeling I was going to do Yesterday, you know, so it's been a favorite of mine.
I think that's the one here, the Christmas song.
Yeah, this is the Christmas song that's playing now. And it's more than just a Christmas song. I mean, he subtitles this "War is Over."
Yeah.
And you know, for my taste, that tune could be played all year round.
Yeah.
You know,
It's become one of my favorite ones. It
Yeah.
was one of my least favorite until I heard your version of it. Yeah, and I've really enjoyed it since then.
It's got an interesting harmonic structure that I'm not going to bore everybody with technicalities, but it's one of the more interesting tunes that I arranged that Lennon wrote. I mean, it keeps changing keys every 8 bars. It's pretty fun progression to improvise on, you know.
And what about the mixing? You had it was a bit of a challenge to mix everything together?
Yeah, I was having a tough time with the mixing. You know, I do all these things in my own studio, and I was having a tough time with the strings and various other things, percussion, and I just wasn't getting the mixes the way I wanted. So I called an old buddy of mine named Jim Zach. Jim Zach ran NOLA Studios here in New York for 40 years, and in my mind, one of the best acoustical engineers in the business. And what happened was Steinway, he was in the Steinway building on 57th Street, I think, 59th Street. But that building got bought out, and they booted NOLA out. So Jimmy was is now kind of just freelancing. So I caught him at a good time for me, bad time for him. And he was free, and he came out to the studio and saved the project and put some great mixes together. You know, I mean, he's the best. I couldn't believe the difference between his mixes and the stuff I was getting. You know?
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, this was really unusual for you. I mean, he's done dozens of albums in our studio, but it was the first with so many layers, and it's a very difficult thing. If you've not mixed for strings before, it's an art. So now you have another notch in your belt for something new.
Yeah, I still think I would call Jimmy again next time.
Yeah.
And I understand with the sale of each CD, $2 is going to a children's charity. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, that's my wheelhouse today. Aid for Kids, run by Dawn Degenhardt, and it's actually out of Maine right now. She's an amazing person, and someday you should probably tell her life story. You'd be fascinated. But she's been doing different incarnations of this particular type of thing for about 30 or 40 years. She started with adoption agencies, just because out of seeing a personal need for things. She has 9 adopted children herself.
God bless.
And she is the most dynamic person I've ever met. And we decided to do this in the spirit of John Lennon, and our threshold for whether or not something was going to get through as far as the charity was concerned was, first of all, was it a children's organization? And then the next little bar to jump was, do they give at least 90% to charity? And
that's a lot.
Yeah, well, they give 98%.
Oh my.
Because their overhead is so low, because as she explains, they don't have any paid people there. It's all volunteer. And the things that they have done are just stunning. And they work everywhere, all throughout the United States, countries all over
How did you find out? How did you find out?
We just did our research. We did our work. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Google.
Yeah.
Right? We interviewed quite a few people, and these people were really, we were impressed with them, and they were really anxious to work with us too.
I bet.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and that's when you know it's right. You know you've just met the right person. You know, you have that mutual thing. It just clicked.
Like when
you're
we
wonderful.
like
that's
when
true.
Like when we
Okay, so maybe she's our sister too. I'm not sure.
That's really wonderful. Now, where do people find your CD? How do they get their CD?
It'll be up on CD Baby any day now, but you can also just go to ronaprea.com, and it's there. And as we said, we've already donated. We had a pre-release sale, and every time someone buys a CD, we shoot over $2 to their organization, and they are real happy about it. So that's cool. Yeah.
So we're going for $1 million here.
Right.
Okay.
And then they make $2 million.
$2 million.
Right. That's it. That's all right.
Boy, that would make me happy. It's such a good thing.
I'm
do so
sure
many wonderful
it'll have
things.
a long life. You know, it's such an unusual type of music and arrangement of music that's so world loved. You know?
Yeah, everyone, even young kids know Lennon, and that's amazing to me.
When you see a young generation of playing the Beatles music, and really one of the reasons I suggested that you work on this is because when I did a press release for your first appearance, you generated over 75,000 hits.
I remember
like
that.
within a week,
That's
10 days,
astonishing, isn't it?
where normally it might be 1,000, maybe 2,000. Sometimes we pop it at 10,000 or 20,000. This was over 75,000.
I remember you called me when they say, Ron,
I couldn't
we're
believe
getting
it.
400 hits an hour.
That's really great. Okay, so you have you're going to do some a cappella for us, so
Yes.
that's right. Okay, so if the control room could maybe close the music for us, and because John, I was going to call
Ron
you.
John Lennon, Ron.
Ron John.
I'm just going to do like a quick a cappella thing to give the audience an idea of how this thing started. And before I even came to your show to play this song, I worked it out a little bit on the saxophone. And, you know, I tried to, again, stay close to the way Lennon played it. And then I decided to put a little bossa rhythm to it. But this is Imagine. It starts off something like this. And so forth. And then we go into our solos. All right? Now, that's how it started. That's how I was hearing it. And I put it onto into my Sibelius, which I write my music with. It's a computer program. And then I started adding little things, and I put the string parts and so forth, bass line, and this is what we come up with the video. You'll hear it on the video. You know, the finished product. This was the first stage.
How lucky am I to be in the same house with him? I get to see it from, you know, its infant stages and into what
it is now.
Yeah, what the final
That's one of the
product is.
reasons. I'm an accountant, you know, so how financial is that? And I love working with creative people because it's to have an opportunity to see the inception of an idea and what an artist goes through to develop up to a finished product. Because I'm used to just the finished product, you know, and the time that's involved with it, you know.
Well, I find that playing the song first, over and over and over and over and over. You know, I must have played that tune 150 times before I come up with an idea of how I wanted to arrange it. And I wanted to get comfortable with the tune. It's a tune I never played before. First time I played it was on your show.
Oh, my.
It's not a tune that's in my repertoire.
I really like Imagine for a lot of reasons, but also because my first celebrity here in New York when I moved here was Yoko Ono and Julian.
Really?
And I was walking on Central Park West, and all of a sudden Julian turned around. And he had a T-shirt that said Imagine, and I went, oh, it really is them. And I was reading Lauren Bacall's biography at that time, and she lived in the Dakota, so I was actually walking by to see where Lauren Bacall lived, and there was Yoko and Julian. And I actually saw Julian at a book signing party last couple months. Yeah.
Cool. So we've kind of come full circle here.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's
After
what we did our
30 years.
video on too. I know that's real cool, yeah.
Yeah, so we have, before we run into the video, I wanted to, people can see you live performing at Trumpets, correct, in New Jersey. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we've been, for the past year and a half actually, we've been doing a big band thing. That's my other love. I love big bands. And apparently the owners of Trumpets love big bands as well. And they found out I had all this great original music from the Basie band. And it's been sitting around collecting dust for years. I haven't used the big band in so many years. But I do love playing with the big band. It's just with the economy, it's just so hard to work with a big, so I stopped even pushing the big band. But these owners, well, you know, Christine and Enrico, good friends of ours now. And they kind of like maybe nudged me a little bit to put the big band back together. And so we've been there the last Sunday of each month for the past year and a half, and it's just been building and building, and we may be there for the next 10 years the way it's going, you know.
So we'll be there the 26th, I think, Sunday?
26th, we'll be there again this month, and the last Sunday of every month. So it's Montclair, New Jersey. It's not far from here. It's like a 15-minute drive.
Right.
You know?
That's great.
It's a wonderful room, by the way. I love playing there.
I love seeing your photos.
Yeah.
I've got to get there.
Yeah.
Well, those photos are from Chris Drucker. We have to give him credit. He is an amazing. He's the guy that did both my album designs. And he's an amazing creative photographer and a good friend too. And he comes, usually when we play there, not all the time, but most times he comes with his camera and he takes pictures and just sends them to us as a gift, you know.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm sure it's a gift for him too, you know, to be around you, and just like it is for me, you know, so thanks for coming in. Okay, so we're now ready for the video, right? If the control room could roll in our video that we have. This is the completed version of Imagine. wonderful is that?
She did a good job, didn't she?
She really did. Can you help me out with my editing?
Anytime.
Great.
This is our videographer here.
Yeah,
There you go.
I really enjoyed watching that. Tell me something, when you were involved with this project, did you think, gosh, you know, I've gotten too far into something and it's too much work? Or was it more of a labor of love, or was it easy for you? Because I would think it's very complex, you know, with all those people in there.
Yeah,
I
never, I never lost focus on getting this thing done. But there were times when it was very difficult. I spent 1.5 years on this project, and it was getting exhausting. And it was a period where I'm thinking, like, do I have the strength to finish this thing, you know? But you crank it up, you take a few days off, whatever, you know, you bring in some new people, like Jimmy Zach energized me, you know?
You're looking at someone who never quits. Never.
No, it was going to be done. It was just a question of at what expense.
I always kid around with him, and I tell people, you know, if he sees a brick wall and he can't get around it or over it, he'll just go through it, that's all.
Right. Well, it's a wonderful piece of art, and I enjoy listening to it, and I think it's really great that, you know, ideas come from being on the show. I was your last push.
It's true, though.
You know?
It was a big push. I mean, that was the deciding moment for me.
That's great.
It really was.
But, you know, how many people do have worked with John Lennon or have recorded with him? And what was it? His engineer just recently passed away too, you know? So
yeah, not many. You know, that's one of the things. I know my friend Marcus McLaurin, who was on the show the first time with me, bass player, wonderful bass player. And he was very impressed with the fact that I worked with Lennon. He said, not too many people, I never thought of this. I never even entered my mind. But he said, only a handful of musicians ever worked with him.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so I guess in that way, I've been pretty fortunate, you know?
Yeah. Well, we've come to the end of our show. I just want to thank you very much for coming in again today.
Thanks so much.
You're always welcome to come back whenever you want. You know,
Next week?
Next week, yeah, sure. Well, actually, I did that one time with someone, and it turned into so much work. You know, give me a break.
Well, you can come and visit us at Montclair, New Jersey.
There you
and
go.
Check out the band.
Wonderful.
And thank you so much for having us.
Yes, congratulations on your project.
Thanks again, Ginger.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon with the Ginger New York TV show. Wasn't that wonderful? Get the CD, check out Ron's website, and this beautiful music. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ginger Broderick, and I'm the host of the Ginger New York TV show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Miss Angela. Thank you.